A huge internet firestorm erupted after popular podcaster Joe Rogan made an endorsement of Senator Bernie Sanders. So now I'm going to show you a video that the Sanders campaign had cut of this endorsement. Take a look.
Who are you going to vote for in the primary?
I think I'll probably vote for Bernie. Him as a human being, when I was hanging out with him, and I believe in him. I like him. I like him a lot. What Bernie stands for is a guy who, well, look, you could dig up dirt on every single human being that's ever existed if you catch them in their worst moment and you magnify those moments and you cut out everything else and you only display those worst moments. That said, you can't find very many with Bernie. He's been insanely consistent his entire life. He's basically been saying the same thing, been for the same thing his whole life. And that, in and of itself, is a very powerful structure to operate from.
All right, so I just want to point out the irony of who he was talking to in that, who asked him that question. That's Barry Weiss. Barry Weiss is somebody who is not exactly a fan of Bernie Sanders. In fact, I think she despises Bernie Sanders. But anyway, so in that endorsement, I think he lays out a pretty simple reason to support Bernie Sanders. I like him. He's nice. He's consistent. And, you can dig up dirt on anybody, which ironically is what's happening today to Joe Rogan. But look, even if you do to Bernie Sanders, which a lot of establishment folks have tried, you can't really find anything that's so bad to make you not want to support Bernie Sanders. And so, look, it's pretty simple surface level stuff, but this is who Joe Rogan is. Joe Rogan is a regular person, right? He's a regular guy. He's not a political figure, right? Not really a super expert on anything. Well, okay, not entirely true. He's a comedian, and he's an MMA announcer. So you got to know, obviously, a lot about that. But a lot of the issues, he has a more surface level understanding, which is fine. And that's not a bad thing. I don't think Joe Rogan's a dumb person. I think he's a smart person. But I also think he's a regular dude, right? And I think that's his appeal. And part of what I can appreciate about him is that he has an open mind. He's generally pretty curious about different points of view and wants to have open conversations with lots of, different people. Now, there's people that I agree with, Kyle Kalinske. There are people that I completely disagree with that he's had on the show, Dave Rubin, Jordan Peterson, etc. Right? So there are views all across the political spectrum. Now, he appeals, and part of the appeal and part of why I actually do like this endorsement is that he talks to average people. He's the most popular podcaster in the country. So he has over 7 million subscribers. His show gets watched millions of times and listened to millions of times. Conservative, libertarian, progressive. He's got people on like Kyle, and he's also got terrible people that come onto his show. And so I disagree with some of his positions, obviously. He said some pretty terrible things in the past. He's had some pretty terrible positions, but I also agree with some of his good positions. And so, look, he's a mixed bag. And I think that's pretty much where most of the country is. I mean, he's representative of, I think, the average either non-political person or somebody who, is a little bit, I guess, a little bit conservative or libertarian or whatever, but average, right? And that's, again, why I'm okay with this. Okay. Now, again, he said some pretty ignorant things about trans people, mainly saying that, for example, trans women shouldn't compete in women's sports. Now, that's a conversation that I'd have. The trans women that I've seen, they look no different than other women. So I have no problem with that. And so, look, let's have a conversation, right? But part of that conversation could be, okay, so what if we ban women that bodybuild, right? Who are much, much bigger than other women. Should we ban them from being in sports? Or how about women who are naturally tall, like the more Amazon type, right? Larger women with a bigger build? Should we ban them too because they're more like men or they're stronger than regular women? I mean, so where's that conversation, right? We should have a conversation on some of this stuff, and I think I think somebody like Joe Rogan would be more perceptive or more receptive into saying maybe we should allow them to compete. And so and you know, look, it's about having a conversation, and that's what's important is actually talking about this, right? And some of you might say, oh, no, what Joe Rogan is saying is completely fine. And again, you can have a civil conversation about this, right? And I think really what's really important is why don't we ask trans women? I mean, it's really important to get their perspective as well, and maybe have them talk to somebody like Joe Rogan or people like that. But look, anyway, uh, this is look the conversation here, and actually having conversation and having views that you know are considered to be controversial or taboo in the political arena is directly related to the blow up, right? And I think this is less about Joe Rogan and more actually about Bernie Sanders, because there are the same establishment people that talk about, hey, how dare you have a litmus test, saying, oh my God, how dare you accept this endorsement for Joe Rogan, who doesn't always agree with you on all these other issues. Okay, that's an interesting thing. In fact, there's a lot of people that are supporting Elizabeth Warren, other liberals. They're attacking Bernie Sanders for accepting this endorsement. There's even Sanders supporters that find it problematic, and certainly for valid reasons on their own. Okay. That said, personally, I wouldn't turn it down. And why is that? It's because of the reach. Again, I think he's an average guy. He's the average perspective, right? A little bit of a dude, bro. But again, not a horrible thing. He does have a big following. These people in his following could actually be open to our message. So instead of driving them away for having some bad views, why not draw people in and actually change their minds? I know, right? Have a conversation. Whatever happened to progressives wanting to change hearts and minds? Again, you're not going to change the hardcore Trump supporters, right? Minds. But there are people there who might hold a couple of bad views, but also agree, like, oh, yeah, of course, rich people are screwing us over. Corporations should be taxed more. Hey, we should all have health care. Well, those are the people, that you can get on your side. And people that think the system is unfair or that have been left behind. Those are the people you can reach. And certainly Rogan has people who follow him or listen to his show that are more receptive to those ideas, but also might have some bad ideas about, for example, gay people or trans people. Those are things that we can change their minds on. And so that's the thing, right? That's the thing. The soul of progressivism is you take someone with ignorant views and you change their mind. And you use facts and you use logic and you appeal to their humanity and you change their mind. And so, look, if you want to change the mind of somebody who's against trans people, why don't you have them talk to somebody who is a trans person? Okay? So that would make sense to me. Talk to someone. Have the open conversation. Have them meet, because I guarantee some of the most virulently anti-trans people or anti-gay people have never met a gay or trans person in their lifetime. Once you talk to them, once you get to know them, you realize that they're regular people who want the same things that you do. Life, happiness, all that stuff, success, etc. So let's talk about this. So let's have these open conversations, and let's not completely dismiss everybody who has a view that is ignorant. We should try to educate them to make them more aware, make them see other viewpoints. That's it. That's what we should be doing. Not everybody's going to flip over to your side, obviously, but there are going to be some people who do. And so that's important. Being progressive is allowing people to be able to change and get better. If there is a chance to grow the progressive movement through this endorsement by appealing to people who might have a couple of problematic views or misguided views or are apolitical, then I say let's take it, let's bring them into the fold, and let's change their views. Let's make them better because we can change minds. And shouldn't that ultimately be the goal? Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.